Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the backdoors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Welcome, everyone, to the Golden State Media Concepts Science Fiction Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline.
And I'm your co-host, Shay Northrop.
And we have a pretty fun and exciting episode for you guys because we have some previews on some movies that are coming out, as well as an old school throwback movie that I just fell in love with over the weekend, Starship Troopers. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the episode. But I wanted to start off with discussing The Girl with All the Gifts. Now, if you have the pleasure of living in the UK, this movie is already out.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting for you guys because Shay and I actually had some confusion because I was telling Shay that this movie didn't come out yet, and he was like, Pauline, yes it did, people are already discussing what has happened in the movie. And I was like, Shay, no it doesn't, because I went on Fandango. Now I don't know if they have Fandango overseas, but in the United States we know what Fandango is.
Fandango's pretty great.
Yeah, and so I was on there because Shay and we were saying that we would kind of do what we did with Morgan and kind of discuss what our thoughts were on the movie, go watch it, then come back and kind of give a wrap up about it. And so that was our original plan.
But it looks like we're going to have to wait until
October
the 11th.
I know.
I don't really want to wait that long, but I guess we're going to have to.
I know we're forced to, but I guess in the meantime, in between time, if you guys want to, there is a novel. It's based off the novel by M.R. Carey, which is entitled the same title. So it's The Girl with All the Gifts, and
came out in June 2014, and it's based on a award-winning short story with a different name that I can't pronounce. It deals with a dystopian future in which most of humanity is wiped out by a fungal infection. So apparently there are these things called the Hungries, right?
Yes.
Which are basically zombies.
Yeah.
But then when kids are Hungries, when you're little kids,
right?
This what happened 20 years ago, I guess. So the children can retain information, and they're still kind of smart. They don't know how to talk,
right?
But they're still able to retain information. So they start tying them down and teaching them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So what's supposed to happen is the little girl saves her teacher,
yes, Melanie,
from a group of Hungries and some junkers is what they're called. And so they start to trust the girl, and she helps them. She's their only hope, basically.
Right.
Which we've seen a ton of these. Oh.
She's
the only
heartless zombie girl who has a heart. She has emotion, but she's not supposed to. But she kind of relates.
It's kind of a different take on the story. I like that it's done by a fungal infection instead of a virus or something like that. I think that's kind of a cool take on it.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of. I don't know if she's going to be the hope for the cure or anything, but I get really tired of those. Oh, there's a hope.
They're the
for
last
a cure.
one, and it's they got
to
build the antidote from them or whatever.
Zombie movies are kind of one of those things that I really enjoy. Zombie movies, but they got a little ridiculous at some point. I really I'm a George A. Romero purist in a sense, but after Zombieland. We just got a flood of terrible zombie movies. And it hasn't stopped. It's slowed down, but it hasn't stopped. This movie does have a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb currently, which is good news and a good sign. Although IMDb, I feel, is a little bit on the nice side when it comes to movies. I didn't find the Rotten Tomatoes review. I don't think that's out yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, because in the UK, it just came out on the 23rd, so it's still fairly...
It's
the
fresh.
First week. Yeah, it's still kind of new. But unless you've read the novel already, then you've been probably anticipating this because they already announced that they were going to come out with a movie basically in the very beginning when they came out with the book as well. So
and we'll see, because you have to take movie books with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
A lot of people are always a lot of movies don't follow the book, and it's
Right.
something that like I get kind of mad when people are like, well, you'd understand this and this if you'd watch the book. Like that movie Odd Thomas. Did you ever see Odd Thomas?
No.
Don't. I didn't like it. Everybody that I knew was like, well, you have to read the book by Dean Koontz. You have to read the book. You would understand what
Dean
happens
Koontz,
if you read the book.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but this is the movie.
True.
And a movie needs to stand on its own, guys.
I agree.
If the movie
I
can't
hate
stand
when
on its own, then it's not a good movie.
Right.
You know?
I hate when you have to like read it before. Well, I mean, I enjoy reading and I don't mind that part.
Yeah, I mean,
but
neither.
I agree with you.
But a movie needs to stand on its
Be
own.
able
It's the
to.
same like the Harry Potter movies stand on their own, arguably.
I agree. I don't think you need to read the books.
Yeah, you don't need to. I feel like if you're going to make an adaptation, and we're going to be talking about an adaptation later today
Yes.
with Starship Troopers, but
which I'm so excited for.
I feel like a movie needs to stand on its own, and so please, people, stop telling me that I need to read the book before I watch the movie.
Right. And so if for us here in the United States, like I said, we're going to get the opportunity October 11th. So it's going to be kind of like a little bit of a wait.
Yeah,
we're going to have to wait for it. But so far, like we mentioned, it seems like the people across the pond are enjoying it so far right now.
It seems like it, yep.
So I'm excited for it.
One of the things, you got to kind of keep reviews with, again, a grain of salt once they first come out. Because a lot of people will review a movie before they've even seen the movie. Like, I've seen reviews come out like the day before a movie airs, and not from private screenings, just from people that like people like
kind of like us right now.
Yeah, well, people bombarded Suicide Squad with reviews before the movie even came out. Like,
very true,
and
true.
I don't know. It's just one of those things. But we're not reviewing the movie. We're reviewing the trailer.
True. Yes. So there is a trailer out that you can watch, which I actually personally enjoyed. There was one little thing in it that I was just like, does a girl never like wipe her face? Like she's like has like blood that has dripped from like her mouth to like her chin down her like the front of her shirt, and I'm like, do they never just like wipe her face off?
Well, if they
I know
wipe
she's like
her
a
face
zombie
off,
girl,
she
but
might
like,
bite them because the kids are like kids until they smell humans and then they want to eat
right, and then they kind of like turn on you. But I'm like, girlfriend.
Honestly, I think the trailer was cut pretty bad. Like it's definitely your standard stock Hollywood trailer. Probably gives away more than it should.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm interested to see what this movie's all about.
I'm excited for, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw like the still of the trailer before actually watching it, because I didn't read who was like the cast.
Yeah.
But I actually thought that the main character, like the girl who is playing Melanie.
Yeah.
I thought she was Willow Smith, and I was like, oh no, like great.
Not a fan of
like,
Willow.
I'm
honestly, I don't.
I'm not a fan of her, but I just wasn't wanting it to be her.
Gotcha.
So now that I know that it's not her, I'm excited.
Okay. Fair enough.
I kind of just was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I really feel like Jaden Smith and Willow Smith aren't exactly the best actors.
They're not their dad. That's definitely it.
That's definitely true.
So sometimes I'm just like, no. But I think it's a good fit for her. I like her in what I've seen thus far in the trailer. So I'm pretty excited for this movie, like I said. So we're going to get the opportunity to watch it when it comes out October 11th. So just a few, 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away.
Yeah, and my prediction for this movie is going to be a basic, it's either going to be garbage or it's going to be great. So I don't really know what to think about it yet. Although I am kind of concerned. It seems to me, Pauline, and tell me if I'm wrong, but science fiction seems to be focusing movies and shows and everything just extremely on little girls that are A, the only hope for society, or B, super powerful beings. Like Morgan was all about a girl who was super powerful, and it was all about her. And then Stranger Things is about a little girl with mental abilities. If you haven't seen Stranger Things, go watch it. Don't bother with Morgan. And now we have the girl with the gift. So sci-fi, you've got this creepy little obsession with little girls,
young girls,
right now.
that are
around the age of
adolescents. 8. So we'll see. My prediction with this movie is that I don't want her to die, but I hope she dies. I hope she dies.
So I don't want this movie to be good, but I don't want it to be bad.
But I think she's going to die at the end. She's going to sacrifice herself for the greater good. So we'll see. We will give you guys kind of like a review, like a recap review when we come back from watching that in a couple of weeks once it does premiere. But well, at least over here in the US. But that's going to do it for this little segment. We will be right back. We're going to cut it to a quick break.
When we get back, we're going to talk to you guys about Pacific Rim 2's casting roundup, who's confirmed to star, and we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about Starship Troopers, so keep it locked.
Keep it locked. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. I'm Shay Northrup.
And I'm Pauline.
And we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about some rumors circling around Pacific Rim 2. Mm-hmm. Now, if you haven't seen Pacific Rim 1, what are you doing with yourself? Like, that's a great movie. Well, kind of.
It wasn't a bad movie.
Pacific Rim is one of those things where if you enjoy monster mashup fighter movies, then you'll love it. It's not particularly well acted. It's a little campy and it's a lot of fun. It's by Guillermo del Toro, who, if you're not familiar with his work, he has done Hellboy. He did Pan's Labyrinth and a bunch of other really good movies. He has kind of his own little tropes that he has in all of his movies, and Pacific Rim is definitely guilty of some of it. If that's a bad thing, I think it's a good thing. I like Guillermo's work. And so 2 has been kind of rumored for a while, and there's been some things like at the end of 1, you know that Newt has kind of melded minds a little bit, like the Dr. Newt has melded minds a little bit with one of these things and kind of seen the other world from where the rift is bringing the monsters up. So there's always been this rumor that the next movie is going to have him as the antagonist, and he's going to bring in bigger and badder monsters. Now, we're not exactly sure if anybody from the original cast is going to be in it. I really hope so.
I hope so too,
because I really like the guy from Sons of Anarchy in that role, and of course they had
Idris Elba.
Well, Idris Elba,
my favorite guy ever.
But I was going to talk about what's his name. Ron Perlman was in it too, as kind of like a weird backwater, sells the organs of the creatures, and at the end of the movie he gets spat out by one of the dead ones, so I'm kind of hoping he's going to be back. Now, some of the people that they've been talking about doing bringing on is John Boyega, who was in Star Wars The Force Awakens and Attack the Block. Get off my block. If you haven't seen Attack the Block, that is a fun science fiction movie, I'll tell you what. Now, he's the only actor we have a description for, and he's supposed to be the son of Idris Elba. And we're assuming that he's probably the lead. I think that's probably a good assumption. Now, we also know that... But
then that means that Idris probably isn't going to be in this one.
Well, he died, remember?
Yeah. Ugh. I actually don't remember because I fell asleep halfway through.
Oh, well, spoilers.
Sorry about it. I did like what I saw, though. I mean, but I didn't know that Idris died. You just let me sit here and think that he was going to make a comeback. Oh, my gosh. I'm actually really...
Well, he might be in flashbacks.
Of course. Oh, I hate that, though. So it's going to be the whole, like, my father. Like.
Yeah, totally. But it's Guillermo del Toro. It'll probably be pretty good, probably.
Man, no, I'm sad now.
So Audrey Adorno has been casted. She's been in True Detective, The Belko Experiment, Life of the Party, and a upcoming reimagining of Wizard of Oz gag.
Yeah, they could just let that one rest.
So it seems like a lot of these people are more like TV show people.
Actors.
They also have Levi Madden. He's playing. I cannot pronounce that name. Can you help me out here? Ilya.
Oh, Aya.
Aya, who is, I guess, described as an irrelevant offbeat cadet. Yep, that's pretty detailed. He's been in The Killing, The 100, Olympus, and he is in iZombie. Yay. I have mixed feelings about that show. Kaylee Spincy also is in it as well, and I don't know what she's been in.
Yeah,
but also Scott Eastwood, who was just in Suicide Squad, Snowed In,
right.
Walk of Fame, and a bunch of other stuff. So there are quite a few people that are going to be in this. Those are just some of the people that have been rumored. I'm excited for Pacific Rim 2. I know it's probably going to be a while before it actually comes out, but
they're anticipating the end of February 2018. So got to kind of wait a little bit. Maybe we'll hear some more about it.
February is not a good month for movies.
I know, see?
I don't know how much effort they're actually going to put into this. I hope they put in a lot because Pacific Rim came out, like in 2013?
I was going to say Pacific Rim's kind of old.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
And although I thought it was great, like...
people might have forgotten about it.
Yeah, well, not just that, but like I think I'm more worried about like, okay, so either you're taking too much time to make a great film or you're taking too much time because you don't care.
Oh, I see.
You
Well,
know?
it just could be because everybody's so busy, it seems like. A lot of these
true.
actors and actresses dabble in quite a few things, so perhaps, I mean, it could just be a scheduling conflict.
It could be, and Guillermo del Toro is a busy man, but it's one of those things where the fans of Pacific Rim love Pacific Rim. Like...
Yeah.
And I know quite a few people.
My dad really liked it.
Yeah. And there's like a whole mysticism and lore about it that is really appealing, especially the different classes of kaiju.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it means monster. And so I'm kind of excited for this. I'm looking forward to see what happens, although their casting isn't exactly like I don't know. I'm not seeing anybody who I'm like, "Oh my god."
Well, if Idris died, I mean, I don't know if I can. I don't know.
Well, maybe you should watch the movie.
I'm gonna rewatch the first one. I'm gonna try that one again.
Speaking of rewatching movies, later on in the show we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the genre military science fiction.
Yes, which is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it really
I like
is.
military sci-fi.
So,
I do.
Yeah, me too.
I really do.
I just love sci-fi.
I was gonna say I like military things,
I even like the trash sci-fi. I really do. Anyway. So we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about a throwback, Starship Troopers. Now, I believe, Pauline, this was the first time you've ever seen Starship Troopers.
I love that. I'm always getting introduced to new things, and I'm able to broaden my horizon. But it was actually a lot of fun. This one I really thoroughly enjoyed. So far, so good. So, I'm actually planning on... I heard that there's more.
Yeah.
There's a 2 and 3.
There's a few more of those, but I wouldn't even bother.
Right. I mean, the first one was really good. I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually had the volume all the way up so I could hear everything.
So Starship Troopers is a 1997 American satirical military science fiction action film. That's a bit of a mouthful. Directed by Paul Verhoeven. And it was originally an unrelated script called Bug Hunt at Outpost 9, but eventually licensing the name Starship Troopers from the novel Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein. And so the original Starship Troopers, the novel itself, now the movie is a little bit satirical, but the novel itself is actually the first representation of power armor.
Right.
So like the power armor that you see in Fallout and that sort of thing? It would not exist if it wasn't for Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers they basically built the power armor so that they can actually have a chance against the bugs, which are these giant bug-like monsters.
I know.
One of the interesting things about Starship Troopers, there's a couple really interesting things about the book itself. Because the book itself is about a soldier named Juan Johnny Rico and his exploits in the mobile infantry. So the way that this world is set up is that in order to become a citizen on the planet Earth, you have to join the military and serve in some way. And if you don't, you're not considered a citizen. You can't vote and that sort of thing. And so this is kind of set up because they've been at war with the bugs for a really long time.
Right.
And they're trying to beat them. And they're really outnumbered and outclassed. very similar to Ender's Game. I feel took a little bit from this in a certain way. So it's almost like a utopian society that is set up around military fascism.
Yes.
And it's really interesting because most of the time you hear military fascism and everybody is just like, oh my God, no.
It's always bad, yeah.
But they make a really, really good argument for it.
I thought so too.
The book or the movie itself is making fun of this society. Like there's that scene where the guy comes in and he's like, you know, the military made me the man I am today. And he's
missing all his limbs. He literally only has one hand. Yeah.
So like it's supposed to be kind of making fun of it in a sense. And I know a lot of people who really admire the book. Mm-hmm. A lot of the fans of the book did not like the movie. I, however, enjoy the complete different satirical take. Now, one of the things that's also really interesting about the book is the main character is a Filipino man.
Right.
Yeah, they don't bring it up until halfway through the book. And this book was released in 1959, so
it's pretty forward. Yeah,
pretty forward thinking for the time. So there's a lot of corporal punishment, capital punishment, and like all that kind of thing that the book and the movie focus on. And in the movie, they kind of show it off as a bad thing, and in the book, of course, they show it off like completely opposite. Starship Troopers, oh my God! Like as far as having great special effects.
No, like, I thought it was good.
It was awesome.
And nothing was like cheesy about it. Like
no,
I thought
it's all practical.
It was really actually very well done.
It's a very well done movie, a very violent movie.
Yes,
it's one of those movies that when I was a kid, I remember it being on TV and I watched a little bit with my dad and I was little kid and I was terrified.
I was going to say it would probably be a little bit scary because some of the stuff kind of, it didn't make me queasy, but I was like, ew. Like, yeah, you know, like so like the gross. Bodies and some of the things that they have around. And I was just like, that's actually kind of graphic. Like,
yeah.
You know?
So the budget itself was estimated around 105 million and they made over 121 million worldwide.
Wow.
So yeah, it's, I really enjoy the movie myself.
I thought it was good.
If you haven't checked it out, I would. Like, go check out this movie.
Yeah, I think it's not, there's nothing cheesy about it. I think it came out in 97.
Yes, 97.
Yeah, so it's a little bit older, but it's really hard to tell. The only reason why you can really tell, the only reason why you can tell that, okay, this definitely was made a while ago is because you will recognize some of the actors and they just look younger.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that kind of gives it away.
Right.
Is that everybody looks so young. But like how you were saying, like the graphics and even like the bugs themselves look almost like it looks real. You know, and it doesn't like there's parts where I was like watching it and I was just like, ew, that is what a giant bug really would look like. It doesn't look like it doesn't have like the weird, I hate it when you could tell that there's like green screen and things like that. Yeah. It's not, it's very well done.
It's a practical, most of the movie is practical.
Yeah.
And, you know, this came out in a time where special effects were actually really awesome.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't checked it out, I'd really check it out. I feel like this is a great example of military sci-fi in action. And
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I do, like you said, if you're kind of young or if you have people watching it with you that are younger,
if you're a little queasy, it's definitely not.
It is, you. Yeah. The first part, there's one scene when one of the cadets, well, when like the guys, like I think when they're still like in boot camp, when he takes like his helmet off, and he gets shot. I was like, oh. I was like, all right, now I'm ready for, because I wasn't expecting it to be that graphic.
Right.
You know, I really wasn't. And so it kind of like took me aback. But then after that, I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, I was actually like looking forward to it. And I also did like that it's not too much lovey-dovey in it. There's a little bit of that story in it. And I'm just like, eh.
Well, I mentioned in a previous episode that the director of this movie was also the guy who did RoboCop.
Yes.
And in RoboCop, in both RoboCop and Starship Troopers, there are scenes where there's co-ed showers.
Right.
And
which I was
so,
like, cool.
In his perfect universe, we've gotten over sexualizing each other and we can just share bathrooms.
Right. Which I thought was kind of like a cool way that they showed that because they made it so casual.
Yeah.
It was really casual to where it was almost like, okay, I could kind of see that happening in the future. So,
all right. And it looks like we're coming up on a break. When we get back, we're going to talk to you guys about military science fiction.
Yes. So we'll be right back. Keep it right here.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch, whatever it may be.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Science Fiction Podcast. Right now, we're going to talk to you guys about a subgenre of science fiction known as military science fiction. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm just going to kind of give you guys a few examples of it before we dive deep down into it. So Starship Troopers, of course, is a really good example of it. There's also Halo, Mass Effect, Warhammer 40K. There's a lot of video games based around it and a lot of books based around it. You don't really see a whole lot of movies based around science fiction military. You get Starship Troopers, you get, I think Aliens. You could consider Aliens as a military science fiction movie. And then, like, you could even, like, say Star Wars The Clone Wars could be probably an example of military science fiction. War of the Worlds, in a sense, I guess. If you really want to trace it back to 1897, written by H.G. Wells, that could be a good example of, like, the first time it was ever done.
Right.
So oftentimes with these things, it is a subgenre of science fiction that features the use of technology and weapons used in military purposes. So a lot of times what they do is they take a lot of them are based off of like actual war stories of where they take from, instead of countries, they turn and continents, they turn things into planets and galaxies. Battleships are replaced by spaceships, and weapons are usually replaced by like power armor, lasers, and that sort of thing.
Right.
So it's really high-end military. I think Halo is probably the perfect example of this.
Yeah,
usually,
I think so too.
These movies and books and video games always kind of focus around our heroes. So we're from Earth. Earth is now united against one big major force. Usually we've made contact with somebody and we have to fight them. And usually the military is seen in a very positive light in these movies. Usually military science fiction is a little bit more conservative as far as like content goes. Than maybe some other science fiction genres. Like, if you were to compare this to cyberpunk stories are usually a little bit more liberal and about uncovering the man. What's the man doing? Whereas military sci-fi is usually, and there are, of course, some that don't follow this, where it's usually Earth is good, we're the good guys. Yeah. Capitalism is usually the one that takes over, and we're all united.
I was going to say there's not really,
and we're just fighting these big bad aliens.
Right. There's no difference in like the race or gender or anything. It's just like
a lot of times, yeah. And it's really like us versus them, as
the
opposed
other.
to really
like all humans are one versus the other.
And if there are other humans that don't agree, they're usually subclasses or subsections of people.
Right.
You know, I guess some military sci-fi does explore certain colonies fighting with each other. You know, like if we colonized Mars and Earth was fighting Mars or something like that. But I think those are few and far between. I think Ender's Game is another really good example of military science fiction.
And I personally kind of like military science fiction in the fact that, because I'm very, I guess because since I come from, well, and Shay, you do too, like kind of more of like a military family, and we have some of that military background. So I do like to see in certain movies, especially like this, where, you know, the military is appreciated and shown in a good light. And shown to like make things right and to make things better. I think it's a really good counter subgenre to a lot of science fiction that are trying to expose how bad government is or trying to make some political statement. Usually military science fiction isn't super it's not super deep. Yeah. Usually it's kind of shallow, and it's usually just for a good time. You know, a good time, no alcohol required. You go, you watch some aliens, you watch some violence. Yeah, it's just us killing them. Yeah, like, usually. You know, usually. But then you get gems like Starship Troopers, which has a lot of hidden undertones and a lot of like really satirical type things as well. So
it's a genre that I personally enjoy, and I think next episode we're actually going to talk a little bit about, is it okay for movies in the science fiction genre and other genres to actually be just what they are, science fiction movies, and if it's harmless that they don't actually say anything big or bad or important. Because I feel like a lot of movies today are trying to make some sort of statement. And I like movies that, you know, maybe their stance is a little bit more hidden. Maybe there is no stance. You know?
It's just for pure enjoyment.
Yeah, why can't we have that? So we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about that next episode.
All right, that sounds good. So I think that's actually going to wrap it up for this episode of the podcast.
Yes, this has been the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, episode 22.
Yes, and if you want to listen to episode 22 again, 21, 20, 19, or any of our previous episodes or any of our future episodes, you can find us on our network website. That's gsmcpodcast.com, as well as on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. I'm Pauline.
And I'm Shay Northrup.
And keep it saucy. Wait, I don't even know if I did it correctly, but you know, keep it saucy,
Stay saucy, but yeah.
Stay saucy. Stay saucy. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.